Ruth was a woman who recognized that the best things in life come when you put your chips in. When you close your door to all other options, you slam it and you say, I am in, I am taking a risk, I am with you. All of these reasons to keep us apart. And I love this story because, right in the middle of that track, right in the middle of the song, Ruth does something really remarkable. She's like, hit the pause button, stop it. I'm not listening to that song anymore. Listen to what she says. Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back. Don't do it. Stop it. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. Ruth is the prototype for how to stay together. And she uses, she didn't use, but this passage uses the word clung. She clung to her. That word is a great word. It's the same word that is used in Genesis chapter 2, where it says, therefore a man will leave his father and mother and cling to or cleave to his wife. In the Hebrew, that word, it means glued to, stuck to adhere to. Ruth was a woman who was able to see that the best things in life are not obtained by keeping your options open. Ruth was a woman who recognized that the best things in life come when you put your chips in. When you close your door to all other options, you slam it and you say, I am in, I am taking a risk, I am with you. It's a radical, radical statement of commitment that is terrifying for us in America. And I want to encourage some of you to think about making a deeper commitment today. As I just talk about marriage, there are many of you who are in a committed dating relationship. You're not just dating around, but you're in a committed dating relationship. And I want to encourage you to really consider marriage, to really ask yourself, why am I not taking the step to marriage? What is it? What is the reason? And especially for those of you, if you've already made other commitments, maybe you're living together, maybe you already have a child together, then why not consider marriage? And we have a way for you to walk through some important questions for you about that. If you're in that place this Thursday, over the next 4 Thursdays, we have an online class called Journey to Oneness. And you don't have to be engaged to go to this class. You might just be wondering, what is marriage about? And am I ready for marriage? Are we ready for marriage? And I want to encourage you to go to that online class. Well, Ruth does a couple of things that are really important for us to see when it comes to what it looks like to make a commitment. The first thing she did is she committed by giving her word. She gave her word. She spoke something out loud, and I want you to imagine being Naomi and Ruth in that moment. And what it was like, the fear that was around that moment, the anxiety, the pressure, the feeling of like, I'm all alone. And in that moment when Ruth spoke those words to Naomi, can you imagine the dynamic that changed in that moment? The darkness that just left Naomi and her mind. Can you imagine the hope that filled Ruth's heart when she heard herself saying those words out loud? When you give your word to something, you're not just naming something that is true. When you give your word to something, you are creating a new reality. So I want you to think about it like this. If you've ever had the blessing in your life to be terrified to say the words, I love you, to someone, a romantic partner, then you know what that moment is like. right? You are at a precipice. You're like, I don't know if I say these words, what's going to come back to me. My life may be over from here. That was my thought, at least. If I say these words, if I take this risk, what's going to happen? There's so much fear, there's so much anxiety. When you say, I love you, you're not just naming something that is true, you are creating love in that relationship. And you know, this is true in how God created the world. It's the way things work. How did God create all that is? It says in the beginning, God spoke His word. His word created everything that is. And when you give your word to something, it creates something. And I just want to ask you today, what is something in your life that you are afraid of that you need to give your word to? You may be, for example, in debt, and you feel like, I am full in debt. I don't know how to get out of debt. I don't want to think about getting out of debt. I'm worried about finances. What if you said out loud, not just to yourself, but to God, maybe another person, this year, I am going to get out of debt? What if you're someone in the back of your mind, you've thought, I started school and I never finished. I never finished that degree, and I've always thought about it. I've come back to it, but it's too far gone now. I couldn't do that. It's too far away. What if you said this year out loud to someone in your life, I am going to go back to school? What have you been thinking about a career change? And maybe you're thinking about something crazy like, I want to serve God in ministry or be a missionary or something that I've always had this nagging question about, some sense about, but I'm going to say it out loud. I am going to make a change. Friends, when you say things, when you give your word to something, it does create new reality. And it may be that you are stuck in a place in your life. You may say, I have this addiction and I've never said it out loud, but I am going to be free and I'm going to start now. I'm going to start now. I'm not going to let this hang on anymore. Friends, some of you today need to give your word and watch God create a new world in your life. That's the first thing that Ruth does. The second thing she does is she commits to work through their differences. You know, we have this idea of Naomi and Ruth, at least I do, and I think about this passage. It's so sweet. It's just dripping in sweetness, isn't it? It's like, oh, you guys are so sweet, so sweet. Well, let me just humanize them for a moment. And just help us recognize that they're not, wearing halos around. Ruth and Naomi, they're flesh and blood like you and me. They have problems like you and me. They fight like you and me. And if you don't think they do, then just keep this in mind. This is a mother and a daughter-in-law, okay? And not just that, but I want you to think about you going on a journey with your mother-in-law, or your daughter-in-law, your mother, your daughter, whoever it is in your life. I want you to think about going a journey through this. This is the journey that you're going through. You're leaving Moab and you're going to Jerusalem. How long do you think you would get through that before you are at each other's throats, strangling each other? I'd get like 2 minutes. Be like, shut up already. Give me the water. Why are you carrying the water? But it's not just that they're flesh and blood. These two women are from radically different cultures, radically different worldviews. The distance between Moab and Israel was about 100 miles. It wasn't that far. But the distance between these two women and their cultures, their worldviews, their values were light years apart. It would not be an overstatement to say that if this were happening today, that there would be a Palestinian woman from Gaza who is committing herself to live her whole life to make her people and her God hers. and to walk with her to another land, to journey into Israel with her, to settle there, or vice versa. An Israeli woman going into Gaza with a Palestinian woman. It is not an overstatement to say that that is what these two worlds and these two women were bringing into one family. Do you think that they didn't have disagreements? Yes, they did. And friends, it is so easy. We know that we have disagreements everywhere. We know there are differences all around us. We see it in our marriages and our families. We see it in our politics. We see it everywhere. And we see it in our friendships at school. And we see it in all of our relationships. And it's so easy to either paper them over and just pretend, oh, it's fine. Oh, it's fine. Oh, it's fine. And you know, under the surface, I hate you. 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 Maybe it's not that bad. I don't like you. I'm mad at you. But we don't talk about it. Or you just walk with conflict and there's constant stonewalling, there's constant arguments, and there's never humility, and there's never a breakthrough, there's never a place where we really can humble ourselves. Do you know what, friends? Every area of personal growth in our lives begins when we deal head on with the challenges we have and the conflicts that we're in. Every place of growth starts when we confront those things. And some of us need to confront that this week in our lives. You know, Pastor Adrian and Pastor Santos are going to do a wonderful seminar. Dr. King developed a set of principles and steps based on the teachings of Jesus. Like when you hear these principles and steps and you put them into action, what you're doing is you're putting the teachings of Jesus into your life in such a way that you begin to see transformation and change. And they're doing a seminar in early February. I want to encourage you to come out. It's necessary for us as a church community that is as diverse as ours, in a nation that is as divided as ours, in relationships. It's not just the big picture, it's our personal relationships that are so torn and tattered. We need to put this into us. And so I want to invite you out to that. Let me just share in closing one blessing of going together. There's so many blessings. One blessing. Do you know, Naomi said over and over again, I'll never have a husband, I'll never have a child, I'm going to be alone forever. At the end of her life, at the end of the book of Ruth, spoiler alert, Ruth has a child, and she places this child in Naomi's lap, and it says, and the women said to Naomi, praise be to the Lord. Your daughter-in-law, who loves you and is better to you than 7 sons, has given him birth. And Naomi took the child in her arms and cared for him. The women living there said, Naomi has a son. Friends, I want to encourage you to play the long game. Play the long game. You know, when problems come into our life, it's so easy to get so myopic and so focused on this thing and feel like it's the end and there's no way through it. Play the long game. You know, a friend of mine, when we moved overseas, he had lived overseas, and he said, Eric, remember this. It takes 10 years to have a 10-year friendship. Be patient. Go slow. Play the long game. And friends, I'm so grateful that I've been blessed in a few areas of my life to play the long game. Been married 30 years. I've been a part of this church for 30 years. I've had decades-long friendships. I have decades-long mentors. And I can tell you that the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. Hang in there. God is faithful. He's good. He's good. Play the long game.